Hello everyone. Today we are talking about some of my most transformational DIY projects that I think you need to try in 2025. Since these projects were of course very tailored to my own creative challenges in this home as a renter, I'm also going to share with you some creative ways of how you can adapt my ideas to your home to maybe address some of the design challenges that you're currently dealing with. So this category is covering a few unique ways that I was able to customize some everyday fixtures that I had to interact with on a daily basis. This is a common design restriction that so many of us encounter when we're renters and we can't replace something because it's not our own, or maybe we own the home and we can change things but we can't afford to replace it. So here are a few ideas of how you can customize some of those annoying things in your home and make them a little bit more custom and interesting. So this DIY was a really fun one. This vanity that my sister-in-law had underneath her sink wasn't really a vanity at all. It was some like chrome pipe shelf thing that really wasn't serving any kind of purpose at all. Plus it wasn't hiding all of the pipes and I just felt like it was a really big eyesore. So I wanted to make it my mission to cover it up, and I found some really affordable pull wrap online. So I just wrapped it around the sink to get the circumference to make sure I had the right measurement. And then I took it out into the living room and just used some tape to measure out the exact section I was going to cut, and then used a box cutter to cut between the seams. It was really simple because this was made out of some canvas material. And then I rolled it up really tightly and took it outside so I could use my little manual miter saw to cut down the size that I need. I actually just covered up the place I was cutting with some painter's tape so that it didn't splinter. And I placed it inside this little vanity thing. But as you can see, because of the way that it's structured, the sides were still exposed. So I created two extra pieces that would go on either side, but it still left a gap. So I wanted to find a way to connect these three pieces. So I used these industrial scissors to cut out a little square to put over the connection piece so that it looked absolutely seamless. And then I used some Velcro to create this little latch system so that you could still get into the plumbing if needed. But while it was just covered, it would look like one seamless vanity cover. And then all I had to do was slide each piece in individually and then connect to the Velcro pieces. And now it made this little bar on top look like a place to hang the hand towel, which is exactly where we put it. Even if you don't have this exact sink vanity setup, you could create a little cover with maybe 3 pieces of wood, add some pull wrap on the outside with some glue, and slide it over the sink area. I will link this stuff in the description below if you want to check it out and try to use it for yourself. Okay, there are so many different techniques in this project that you can apply to a lot of different DIYs. So I had some leftover pull wrap from the previous project, and I also had this basic Amazon white medicine cabinet in the bathroom. The landlord said that one of the tenants left it here, so they didn't care if we did anything with it. And after having no luck finding a secondhand or vintage cabinet to replace this one, I was really focused on just trying to make this one blend into this really vintage bathroom. So as you can see, I'm using the same technique to cut down the pull wrap so that it fits inside the shaker style cabinet door. I just feel like this looks a little bit more vintage and modern than this other vertical pattern in here. I feel like that leans a little bit more farmhouse and the pull wrap leans a little bit more mid-century. And then the white color was just too blue and too MDF feeling, so I painted it the same color as the walls. And if you have an eyesore of a medicine cabinet, you could absolutely try just painting it the same color of the walls and giving the room a fresh coat of paint. So after I tested a few different stain colors, I wanted to go to Home Depot to find some trim, and I actually found a trim that was very similar to my mid-century dresser. So because these are all made of pine, I used some pre-stain just to make sure I could get an even coat. And then I discovered this stain called Honey, which gives such a cool teak wood look. And after doing 2 coats, I felt like it was really starting to match my inspiration, which was this cool vintage cabinet I found on Etsy that was $200. So all that was left to do was glue these little panels into the middle of the door. And then I had to cut down the trim, and I basically just used some miter shears to create somewhat of a picture frame. And then I just glued those in and taped them there so that they would dry overnight. And then I found some reproductions of these vintage knobs that are actually already in my house. I found them at a salvage shop, and I feel like this really brought this medicine cabinet from like the 2000s of Amazon into the vintage mid-century era, and it really added a lot of character to the bathroom. So I wouldn't overlook cabinets like this in your home, and you can find a lot of embellishments to add to things in order to make them more personal and just add a little bit more character or style. So I wanted to include this project because it is a very transformational change that I made in this bedroom. I really wanted to go for a mid-century kind of modern minimalist look. I wanted a lot of color. I wanted it to be fun and match my Pinterest photos. And I really wanted one of these rice paper lanterns in there, but I just could not afford one that was nice. I found one on H&M, but it was sold out. And so I thought maybe if I use this little coffee staining technique that I tried on a Halloween decor piece, I could get some cheap white rice paper lantern from Amazon. So I found one for 10 bucks and I made some espresso and mixed it in with probably like 5 parts water to 1 part coffee. And I put it in a spray bottle and took it outside and just kind of gave it a really heavy soak and let it dry in the sun. By toning down the stark white with some coffee stain, this lantern had more of a secondhand vintage look and feel to it. I'm always trying to find a way to elevate really affordable items and not let my budget dictate my style or taste. To finish this project off, I just used a really cheap lighting kit from IKEA to mount it up onto the ceiling. And I think because this was the center of the room, it just really changed the entire vibe of the space. It made it feel more cozy and warm. And I wanted to share this with you so you could maybe start considering how you could create a custom light fixture in your own home from cheaper materials. You don't always have to go buy something really expensive. You can get a little bit creative and come up with something that will totally transform the look and feel of your space. In this next category, I'm highlighting a few ways that you can swap something traditional for something unique. I talk about this a lot on my channel, especially when it comes to secondhand shopping. So if you're interested in more of these tips and tricks when it comes to what decor to buy and what to swap, definitely go check out my other videos. But these next ideas are all DIY focused, so let's jump into it. So I really wanted to bring some warm elements into my room, and I thought using wood would be the best way to go about it. So I found this dowel at Home Depot that was about 1 3/4 thick, and I cut it down to 65 inches, which is exactly what I needed to use it as a curtain rod, because I found these really cool curtain rod brackets on Etsy. Etsy has tons of these super custom items, and people make them in all different shapes, sizes, colors, and materials. So I just made sure to use a heavy grit sandpaper to really sand down the end caps and the entire length of the dowel so it didn't splinter, and the sheer curtain I was going to use could easily slide through without snagging it. And then I gave it a really heavy coat of golden oak stain, and this color actually ended up matching the brackets perfectly. And instead of getting something that's the typical metal rod and brackets or going to get some track curtains, you could actually bring in some natural elements into your space in super affordable and functional ways. Much like the medicine cabinet in my bathroom, I had a really hard time finding a super unique secondhand cabinet to put all of my perfumes in. I really wanted to put them somewhere special to keep them organized, but then eventually I came across this random fire extinguisher box, and the materiality was what I was mostly interested in, including the fact that it was already designed to be hung up on a wall. In my more modern designs throughout the home, I've been really trying to bring in a lot more stainless steel and chrome, and I really felt like the bedroom, because it had such a heavy, earthy, woody influence, I really needed something to lighten it up. So after spending some time cleaning it up and polishing it with these stainless steel wipes, I used these small acrylic smoky colored shelves that I got from Amazon prior to even finding this cabinet, and they happened to fit the interior of the box perfectly. So I did my best to space them out evenly so they would fit my largest and smallest perfumes, and then used some concrete anchors and screwed it into the wall, and it really added something special to my bedroom. If you've been looking tirelessly for that perfect piece, don't forget to think outside of the box. Consider materiality and purpose, shape, and size, and see if you can find something that will serve the purpose and add something special to your space. We all have these boring spots in our home that require functionality, like these boring towel bars, and I really wanted to showcase some really pretty towels that I got and just make this bathroom feel a little bit more intentional and designed. So I used this little mini wardrobe as a cabinet in the bathroom, and so I took the dowel out because we weren't using it for hangers and decided to create pegs out of the wood so that I could design my own towel rack. So I just measured 3 times an equal length and then wrapped painter's tape around where I was going to cut and used my manual miter saw to add an angled end because I wanted the pegs to point up so that I could drape the really pretty towel over it. I then just sanded down each and every dowel, and instead of staining them, I wanted to just cover them in some nice Danish oil. And then I grabbed a piece of scrap plywood. I think this was like Douglas fir or something. And I'm going to use that as my backing and put the 45-degree angle against the back. And in order to do that, I needed to space these hooks out evenly. And then I pre-drilled a hole in each hook and on the little piece of plywood and connected those to the backing to create this really custom towel rack to really showcase these nice towels I bought for the bathroom. bathroom. So I encourage you to think about where in your home do you have these boring functional pieces and how can you update them? Maybe it's a doorknob, maybe it's a towel rack, or maybe it's where you store all of your shoes. I'm positive there's a way to affordably create something unique and special for that really boring functional space. In this next category, I'm going to cover a few different DIY ideas that are so affordable and so simple to do, but they make such a big impact on any room in your home. I chose these ideas specifically because I think they're going to spark some inspiration for maybe some of the problems that you're dealing with currently, like working with a TV, I don't have a lot of counter space, or maybe you just live in a place that you feel like is kind of gross and dingy and the landlord's not updating it. So let's get into it. So I really wanted to be able to watch TV in my bedroom, but I didn't have an additional TV, nor did I want a big black box in there. So I picked up this blackout shade from IKEA, and I thought if I put it above the window and keep the window and the curtains white, it would kind of blend into the background and be hidden. So I used the template to put it right above the molding, and it fit perfectly over my window because this roller shade comes in some standard window sizes, as it is just meant to block out the sun. But it also has the same material and texture as a projector screen. And because I used my track curtains along the entire wall, it seamlessly framed out the window and the projected image. So all I had to do was set up the projector on my nightstand and aim it at the screen and change a couple of the sizing settings, but it fit perfectly. So this might be an option for you if you want to keep the TV out of your bedroom, but maybe you want to watch some movies in the evening. Even if you don't have a window directly across from your bed, you could mount the largest size of this roller shade where your wall meets the ceiling. So in the case of this pedestal sink, there wasn't a lot of countertop space for a toothbrush or a water glass. So I wanted to create an extra space to put those things. So I picked up one of these little signs from the Dollar Tree and I painted it with a blue color that's very similar to the tiles on the floor to kind of just bring that up the wall a bit. And then I just used some drywall anchors and screwed it into the wall so I could have an extra space for the soap dispenser. So this one is kind of a three-parter. First of all, I got this little cabinet to act as my coffee bar, but really to be additional storage and countertop space in my breakfast nook. But I wanted to call attention to two things that I did on this cabinet to really hide some unsightly items. First, I found this reeded glass window cling on Amazon, and I was able to attach it with just some water, and you peel it off and it's like a little bit sticky, but then you kind of move it around and squeegee out all of the bubbles. And by putting this on the back side of these cabinet doors, these doors now look like they actually have reeded glass in them, which has completely elevated the look of the cabinet 100%. And it hides away all of the appliances that we shoved away in here. So it just feels a lot more clean and organized. And then secondly, we had this open area on the bottom of the cabinet. And I was intending to use this spot for storing our cat food bin, but I didn't really want to have to look at the cat food bin all the time. And I thought bringing in some more like organic elements over here would be nice, considering it was very heavy with like metal and wood. So I found this really small linen curtain on Amazon for I think $7.99, and it was almost the exact right size that I needed, but it was a bit too long, so I just used some stitch witchery tape to hem it, and then a little tension rod that I got from Target for I think $6, and I just covered up this bottom area, and I think it looks really cute and adds like a really soft vibe to the piece, and it was a great way to hide away so many things that we needed to store in here. So if you have some areas in your home that feel like a bit of an eyesore, maybe either of these methods or the combination of both of them could really help you out. So this next category, I'm talking about the most common design challenge that probably most of us have, which is how do I find affordable, aesthetically pleasing, functional decor that fits into my home and makes it look elevated and stylish? I'm a huge proponent for secondhand shopping. I think it's sustainable, and I also think it's super fun, and I think it's a really creative solution to finding unique, bespoke pieces. And I have tons of videos on this channel talking about that and showing you all the fun secondhand stuff that I love. But sometimes I cannot literally find what I'm looking for, and I also can't find it at the new stores as well. So I've resorted to a creative solution, which is DIYing my own decor or furniture. So in this next category, I'm going to highlight some of my favorite design DIY projects, and hopefully you can get some inspiration for your own home. So I wanted to find a way to permanently store my jewelry so that it would not be super tangled and I could actually celebrate how cool it is. And I got this jewelry stand at an estate sale for like a couple bucks, but it was just too short for all of my necklaces. So I decided to look underneath the foam on the bottom, and I saw that I could unscrew the top. And then I took that screw to Home Depot and used their little like screw sizing system to find out which screw would fit back into the jewelry stand. And once I found a match, I was looking for a double-sided screw that had that size of the machine screw, but then the other side side would have a wood screw, because what I wanted to do was screw this into this really cool rosewood candlestick that I found at a flea market. So I just taped off the bottom of my drill bit so that I didn't go super deep into the candlestick and screwed these two pieces together. And now the jewelry stand was long enough to hold pretty much all of my necklaces except for two. And I think this just turned out so beautiful, and I absolutely love it on my dresser. I think it's such a personality piece, and I think it really fits into the vibe and the style of the room. So you can absolutely replicate this process by just finding one of these cheap jewelry stands and a really cool candlestick made out of wood, and you'll have a really unique one-of-a-kind decor piece. So this is the vessel I'm going to be using for this project to make my own lamp. So I found this really cool chrome kind of porcelain or ceramic vase at a thrift store for $9. And I've seen people use these diamond hole saw drill bits in order to drill into terracotta, porcelain, ceramic without breaking the vessel. So I got some of these on Amazon to try it out for the first time. And basically you just have to keep the area really wet. So I took it in the backyard and used the hose, and then tried to use this clamp and my feet on a piece of cardboard to keep it there while I was drilling. It was very difficult. If you ever want to do this, I highly suggest having a separate pair of hands, but for the most part, it was pretty easy. I just made sure to keep water on it. And then I picked up one of these really affordable DIY lamp kits from Amazon. I just made sure to get one that had a cord that was like white or clear, and then also I picked silver hardware just so that it would match the lamp. And by the way, if you want to try this out, I will link this kit in the description below. So we needed some way to keep the cord standing straight up with all the hardware, and it comes with this threaded pipe, but I still needed something on top of the vase to hold the pipe in place. So I found one of these cedar circles in that bag that had a bunch of other cedar blocks that I picked up from the thrift store forever ago. And it ended up being the perfect size for the pipe and the top of the vase. And I also kind of liked adding just like the little wood accent. I thought that looked kind of cool and matched my style a little bit. But anyways, you can see that I threaded the cord through the pipe, and then I added a washer and a nut on the bottom of the disc. And then I did that again on top of the disc so that it would stay in place. And you want to keep it about like an inch or so above the disc or the plate or whatever you have so that you can put all of your hardware on. And you also want to pull the cord out from the other side just to keep it taut. And then the next step was to lock in the saddle, which is this U-shaped thing on the bottom that holds the harp, which would hold the shade if I ended up wanting a shade with a finial. I'm not using one of those now, but I'm going to keep it on the lamp just in case I find a new shade for it. But the next step is to just screw this bottom piece on and then tighten the screw so it stays in place. And then you tie this UL knot. I think it's kind of like an electrician's knot, but basically it just keeps the cord from falling through so that it stays up above so that we can work with it. So the reason I really like this kit is because it comes with these little U hands on each side of the cord, and you just put it underneath the screw on either side and just tighten it. It was so easy. It's so much easier than having like a loose wire and having to wrap it around each screw. But this is the electrical part where it's going to respond to you twisting the switch. And then you just put this cover on top to keep the switch in place and to keep everything locked into that bottom piece. And once you're done, you just add your own shade and light bulb, and you have a completely finished DIY lamp that is totally yours. So I've thrifted tons of frames that look like this, and although they're really interesting and they match the style and vibe of my home, I really wanted to incorporate something a little bit more custom. And I also wanted to have a frame that housed two photos so that I could display each one of my cats. But every secondhand frame that I came across that displayed two photos was just kind of basic. But then I came across this really interesting frame on Pinterest, and I wanted to try to replicate it in my own way with my random bag of wood pieces and some wood glue. I've said before many times that I think it's really important to have personal photos around your home, and it can be hard to incorporate pictures of your family or friends and have it still feel really well designed. So instead of turning all of your personal photos into sepia tone or black and white, why not make a really interesting custom frame that speaks to who you are, the style of your home, and highlights the image that's in it? The goal here isn't to copy all of these projects, but to start thinking creatively about maybe some of your own design challenges, or just maybe refreshing your home with something different, new, and fun. I hope that you spend some time this year transforming your home and therefore your life in 2025. I think small little changes over time can make such a big impact, and you'd be surprised what you can accomplish in 12 months. Let me know in the comments below what you guys are working on this year. I'd love to hear about all the different projects that you're trying to accomplish in 2025. And if you enjoyed this video, then definitely give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and check out this video where I talk about some alternative DIY art for those of you who don't like spackle or macrame art. So other than that, I will see you guys on the next one. Bye.